financial markets, cryptocurrency, gold and silver, world news.
Fair to say you simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally, and we do that by buying treasury bills. That actually increases the money supply.
Financial Turmoil Explained.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Tuesday, the 7th of June, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, I want to talk a little bit about my Patreon channel, and working over there. I've been putting videos over there, and a very interesting subject matter. This helps support my channel. Only costs $1 a month. Means you can get a whole year for less than the cost of a sandwich nowadays, right? And I'm doing I do podcasts over there. I do shows about very interesting topics that subject into the paranormal. I talk about a lot of different subjects over there, and basically it's shows that you do not get on these two channels here on YouTube. It's only $1 a month. Anyway, that helps support my channel. Thank you guys for going over there to Patreon and subscribing. I'm going to put the link in the description today. Now, we're going to get on with our show here, and we're going to start the charts right here and take a look at what's going on. Over in China, they got a huge problem. What they're trying to achieve is basically, for some reason, within government, they think that if they get total control over person's lives, this dystopic type of reality, that somehow that they can increase productivity to a point where they'll become the richest and most powerful country on earth if they can only control every aspect of people's lives. And I'm going to tell you, it's all of a sudden there's a thing on the rise in China. It says the rise of Bailan. What does it mean? It means let it rot. It says the phrase Bailan gains popularity as severe competition and social expectations leave many young people despondent. So basically, I guess what it means is see, this is not something, I'm not going to pick on China and say this is a problem that China has. This is a problem in almost every major nation earthwide right now, including the United States of America. And the reason why is they don't call it the same thing they call it in China. And we're going to discuss that in just a minute, what they call it in China. But it's basically giving up on life. And it's in the youth. The people who are most supposed to have that fire, that determination to succeed and everything else. They don't have it. COVID, these blanket laws that they've just put through, and they basically tell a lot of young people, all of them in fact, they've basically said, okay, you can't leave your house. And they've lost their incentive during these years of COVID, of them having to stay home and go on in China, WeChat, and then over here it's your Snapchat or whatever. It's the same darn thing. And they just, why get out of bed in the morning? And so now they're adopting it. Everywhere on earth, the youth are adopting it, and it's basically just they've given up on life. They're like, why bother? I mean, you can't win. You can't succeed. Anyway, says the rise of Bailan. What does it mean? It means let it rot. In other words, the it that they're talking about in let it rot is the system and their place in the system. It says early this month, China's President Xi Jinping encouraged the country's youth to establish great ideals and incorporate their personal goals into the bigger picture of the Chinese nation and people. China's hope lies in its youth, he said. But in China's internet, some young people say that their ideals simply cannot be achieved, and many of them have just given up on trying. They've given up on life. Frustrated by the mounting uncertainties and lack of economic opportunities, They are resorting to a new buzzword called Bailan, or let it rot, to capture their attitude toward life. The phrase Bailan, which has its origin in NBA games, means a voluntary retreat from pursuing certain goals because one realizes that they are simply too difficult to achieve. In other words, you can't do it. And so, one of the things I found interesting about this is, where was it I was reading here? Okay, I guess I passed it. Trying to find it here. Bailan. One of the things I found. Oh, here it is, right here. It's this expression that they have. It says, their expression is, dead pigs are not afraid of boiling water. In Chinese. And this is how it looks in Chinese, in the Chinese words. Dead pigs are not afraid of boiling water. And I guess what it kind of means, or boils down to, is once you've completely lost all meaning in life, you've given up on life completely, and you're basically, say you're a youth, you know, and you're laying there on the couch, and you just basically, you feel like a dead pig. And, you know, and it says dead pigs are not afraid of boiling water. So the authorities come in. They say, hey, you know, you're unproductive. You're just laying here. You're playing WeChat all day. You're playing these games all day. And you just lay here. And how do you motivate a person who has a complete lack of motivation? It's almost like that thing they make fun of on South Park. They got this guy and they say, how do you kill something that's not alive? You know, they got this guy in there on South Park, and he plays these video games all day. He plays the World of Warcraft all day, and he's like a master at it, you know? And they say, how can you kill what's not alive? It's like he doesn't have a life. He's not alive. He's like just living to play video games all day. And I mean, it just comes down to the point where people are just giving up on life. And I think a lot of these people are just giving up on life. Maybe sometimes they just go out and they do atrocities, like go to a shopping mall with a you know what in their bag, you know. And this is a core problem. You know, I mean, you could take away all the you know whats. That doesn't matter. The core problem is what's going on inside their heads. That's the core problem. Until you get rid of that core problem, you're going to have these atrocities going on. Until you get rid of the core problem. Because, I mean, ultimately when it comes down to it, I mean, I'll give you an example. Years and years ago, it must have been 20 or 30 years ago, right here near the town that I live, a group of young people went over and they, I guess, this was an early example of this thing where people, they just don't care anymore. They pulled the thing on the train tracks, the switcher or whatever. They did something anyway. I don't know exactly what they did. Maybe they put something on the train tracks or whatever, but they derailed the train. The young people were responsible for it. They were a bunch of teenage boys or something, and they went out and did something like that. And they derailed the train, and it was a big mess. But this is damage that they can do. You're not just restricting. I mean, when you get a person that has this certain mental attitude where they don't care if they're alive or not. In fact, they'd rather be dead. How do you instill anything in that kind of a person? How do you do anything to try to give them some vigor for life if they don't want it? And then that kind of a person is the most dangerous person alive. It's not the machines. There's always things in this world that are dangerous. All around you, there's tools that can be used to be dangerous. But it's a mental thing. It's what's going on inside the person's head. And what they're creating right now is they're creating an army. 400 million! What we're talking about here is in China with this attitude of Bailan, 400 million of them have read these posts, mostly youth. And over here in America, it's just as bad. It's just as bad. It's just not going noticed quite yet. Right? Amongst the youth. Because the youth around the world, this whole thing that they've started with locking the world up, basically this human rights violation on an unprecedented scale, has now led to extenuating circumstances amongst our youth of the whole world. And if you think we have all these other problems like food shortages and everything else, maybe it kind of pales in comparison to the attitude of the youth. And there's nothing you can do. You could, to stop them, I mean, because you got to change their mental attitude. You got to work on that first, not saying, okay, we're going to have to ban all kitchen knives, you know, because, no, that's not the way to go. The way to go is to work on the mental attitude. Somehow bring these youth back to a state where they're going to be like, have an incentive and they're going to join life again, rather than just be like the Walking Dead, like zombies. Because that's basically what they're saying. Let it rot. Their attitude is let it rot. Let everything in the world rot, and they're just going to crawl under the covers and let the world go to hell. And they don't care. Because they've given up on life. Our youth are giving up on life. And whose fault is it? Again, I keep pointing this out to you guys, whose fault it is. It's these politicians out there. They're running the show right now. And this greedy attempt for grabbing power. What they don't realize is what they're trying to grab power over. They're just, everything's about staying in office. You know, and going to try to get elected again. All this kind of crap. But what they're missing is the whole system that they're trying to be the Lord over is crumbling around them. It's falling apart. And one of the core parts of this system is our youth. And here we've got a huge problem in China, but it's not just in China. This is not just in China. I can tell you this same attitude is spreading worldwide amongst the youth. And if we don't have our youth, what do we got left? Sure, the older generation like me and you guys, a lot of you guys listening to the show out there, we don't have this attitude. And that's because this wasn't done to us when we were young. They never locked us inside our homes and threw away the key. What kind of a mental attitude does that give a young person when they have no outlook for a future? I mean, when the world is diseased. And, you know, getting back to the core of this is what happens when you start to go in laboratories and mess with viruses and stuff through processes called gain of function. This is what happens. You can destroy the world. And maybe the world will actually survive the virus, but it might not survive the extenuating circumstances when the chips start to fall. Oh my gosh, guys. This is really horrendous what's happening in the world right now. And what we're going to have to go through in the next few years. Anyway, let's take a look now at the silver price today. Down 7 cents. They're keeping it down near mining production costs. That's why it's not going down. You know, these guys come out and said, oh, it's going to go down to $18, it's going to go down to $17. I can almost tell you right now that the mining production costs, they need this like 21 bucks. They need that to cover that little bit of profit margin that the miners have above the cost of mining production. And they know better. The guys that are manipulating this price know better than to take it down too low, because they know mining production will fall off a cliff and they won't be able to play this game any longer because they won't have any physical supply. Anyway, let's take a look at gold today. Gold is at $18.45. It's up $3.80. So we're seeing a movement parallel gold and silver today. Gold's up. It's not up much though. Cryptocurrency today, sad story here. Bitcoin can't get its head above 30,000. Crests above 30,000 for a little while, and then it falls back down below. It's at 29,505. But it is maintaining this price up close to 30,000, which is sort of a victory for Bitcoin. Let's take a look at the Dow Jones today. And it's falling down. It's at 280 points down at 32,632. But, you know, as long as we stay over 30,000, the Fed is going to continue with their tight monetary ideas to try to stem off inflation. That's what they're trying to do, or at least that's what they say they're trying to do. But they're going to continue as long as they got a green light. And as long as this market stays over 30,000, they got a green light. So it's 32,632. They got a lot to play with here. I told you these markets were going to stabilize, and they have. They stabilized the very day I told you they would stabilize. But guess what? That stability is flying away like a little bird right now. Right now, it's flying away like a little bird. And the instability is going to come back. And the reason why is because of quantitative tightening, and they're going to continue to raise interest rates. It's going to draw the liquidity out of the system. The liquidity that holds these markets, supports these markets. And so we are going to fall down below 30,000. I figure about 26,000, somewhere around in there, 27. It might even be 28, but I very much doubt it's going to go below 20,000 on the Dow before they're going to react, and they're going to come back in like knights on charging white steeds to save humanity. And I'm being sarcastic about them, by the way, because what they are is a bunch of dirtbags. Anyway, that's the truth of the matter. They're the worst. Pillaging. They pillage us. They loot us for everything that they can get out of us. Yes, they're dirtbags. Let's take a look now at crude oil. $118. You know, these price continues to rise. Well, one thing, crude oil price going really high, it'll cure the shortage of crude oil, because I'm going to tell you what, it makes it extremely profitable to get out there and dig for more crude, you know, and find more crude. The price goes too high, but it's going to destroy the economy at the same time. And it doesn't have any sign of slowing down right now. It could go over $150. And what would that mean at the price of the pump? Can you imagine in the United States of America paying more than $10 a gallon? Well, yeah, imagine that. Okay, let's take a look at the MOVE index today, and this is part of the green light. This is a green light for the Fed right here, this MOVE index staying down around 100. You know, I mean, it was getting up pretty toasty there a little bit ago. It went all the way up to, let me see here, 140. It's down at 102 right now. So as long as this stays down, green light for the Fed to be tight. That's another green light for them, you know. As long as the jobs market stays, as long as the jobless rate stays down, you know, they're going to remain tight. As long as these metrics that they look at, there's certain metrics that they look at. Jobs, they look at this MOVE index, they look at the markets. What are the markets doing? They look at the stability of the credit markets. They look at the debt market. It's a big one, is the debt market. You know, and as long as these markets are not becoming too much unhinged, they got a green light. They're going to continue, the Fed, with what they're doing. But they're going to break the system. They're going to break everything. Let's take a look at bonds and rates today. We're looking at bond yields have fallen today. It's 3.0. It's basically 3% on the U.S. 10-year today, and 3.15% on the U.S. 30-year. And let's take a look at the dollar index today. 102.77 for the U.S. dollar index. Listen, guys, it really helps support my channel if you go over there to Patreon. The link's in the description. And it's only $1. I know it might say something different on there. I don't know. I can't get into that page fully to see what it says there. But it is $1. It's $1 per month. So you can get a whole year for $12. And it does support my channel. I want a lot of people over there to watch those videos. I'm producing about 1 or 2 a week over there, and they're exclusive to Patreon. I run the videos on Vimeo, but the thing is you can't see them on Vimeo, and you can only link to them over there on Patreon, you know. And it's only $1. You wouldn't even notice it. It's nowadays. You know what $1 is nowadays? It's 1 bite of a hamburger. 1 bite. That's all it is. It's 1 chicken McNugget practically now. It's getting to that point now, you know? Anyway, it's getting so ridiculous. You know what $1 used to buy in the old days? Anyway, thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the very next show. Bye-bye.